A lot of time in my own head, a lot of time alone. I work from home in a town of like 80 people in the Upper Peninsula. I mean, what do you guys know about the UP? Like, just shout it out. What's the first thing? Right, it's cold, there's nothing up there. Yeah, it's awesome. I get left alone and I can think. So when I come down here and I see a lot of faces and hear a lot of great ideas like we have already this morning, I tend to get a little frazzled, and I'm going to try and stay on task and move this along so we can answer questions, which is, I think, where the real magic happens. Because of what Alex did earlier with full candor and something that I also found missing starting out, like, can you make a living? Can you feed your future children? Will your wife leave you? You know, is this going to work? So I just did my taxes, which is brutal for a self-employed person, but I grossed 147. I think I got to keep like 68 of that. You know, that, like, this is gross, which is always like awesome, and then you know, but it takes, you have to earn double of what you actually want to make, is what I've found with freelance. I'm 100% freelance. I have some solid, like, multi-year contracts with clients, but getting ahead of myself. So there's some numbers. Yes, you can make a living. I never would have guessed that. I mean, I started out at 10 bucks an hour, and I thought that was awesome. And I bought a pair of shoes and a Johnny Cash box set, and I was rocking. And then, like, 5 years in, you realize, like, oh, I'm still making 10 bucks an hour, and my shoes are blown out, and you don't need CDs anymore. And so let's. I'm gonna start at the beginning. I do story, so I'm gonna tell you my story. It works. It's as old as fires in a cave and people sitting around, and it works. So who am I? Writer, photographer, filmmaker. That's been an evolution. People tend to put the word adventure with those. That's tough. I mean, my mom, sure, she said, yeah, what I do is adventure, because she would never do it. The people that I work with, the subjects, the athletes, they're the adventurers. I'm just the guy trying to tag along and hang on. So adventure's a loaded word, but it's also a good word for selling, so I do use it. All right, my path, and there are many, 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 many paths. I love Josh's thing this morning, if you guys were able to see it. He nailed it. Growth mindset, move forward, always forward. I'm sort of like a redneck version of Josh. So find the story, work hard, have passion. That's going to be the themes today, hopefully, if I do my job. I'm going to start with some things. This is a sticky note that is on my iMac. Actually, it won't stick anymore. It's old. And I cropped off the Uroxetrol, whatever. It's a notepad that my mother-in-law stole from a hospital or something. But anyway, this jumped out at me. Chuck Close. Let me see if I can do this. Bzz. Chuck Close is a painter. Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and work. Just show up and work. Work. Whoa! That didn't work. No substitute for the grind. Embrace the grind. Start now. Grind, 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 grind. This one spoke to me as a parent. I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And Pamela Druckerman's a writer. No grown-ups. Everybody's winging it, some more confidently than others. You know, look around, look at your neighbor, look at your parents. Everyone is as stupid and scared as you are. Forward, forward, grind. And then how many are familiar with Larry and Tyser? Okay, there's a few geniuses in the room, thank you. I live close to Canada. Larry is a Canadian folk hero, and you'll see why in a little bit here. Hopefully this works. All the technologies. Yeah, okay. Is there a tab? Chrome. Okay. Wow. This is like at my house. Kids, turn your iPads off so we can stream Netflix. We're all drinking through the same straw. Volume. Volume. No volume. I'm still going to send it. We'll just get the gist of this here. So that, all right, that's enough of Larry. We can go back. So Larry, besides taking fashion advice from Larry, I also take career advice. You just got to send it is in the parlance of the outdoors world. Whether you're on a mountain bike or on skis or holding a camera, taking a risk, going after a job that you're not qualified for. Because let's face it, you are never, if it's a job you want, you're not qualified for it. Just gonna send it. Thank you, Larry. Okay, little bit about me. Grew up poor, rural, white trash. My dad was in prison, got out of prison, and was a better person. He wanted to travel with what little means he had. He took us wherever we could, as far as the money went. So we'd make it to the Black Hills of South Dakota, Rushmore, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where I ended up being. So instilled in me curiosity, I guess, what we call a growth mindset today, to never stop moving forward and don't be defined by your past. First person in my family to go to college. How many of you were the first to go to school? Cool. Yeah, it's scary, right? So the reason I bring that up is for one, the people who are maybe first to go to school or who have had some kind of, something in your past that maybe is a strike against you, that, you're not alone. I'm here, I did it, I make a living, everything's awesome. And for those of you that have had maybe an easier ride, what's your excuse? Get moving. Because the other people are hungrier and forward. Newspapers, remember those? Anybody? It was awesome. I loved it. I did not grow up in a newspaper family. So when I discovered this, I went to school for Chinese. I went to school because I didn't want to be poor anymore, and I got a full ride scholarship because I was the A student in a small school. Fixed growth mindset for sure. Like, I was the top of the class. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, got my ass kicked. It was amazing. All these people were so much smarter. And yeah, it was amazing. But I didn't want to be poor anymore. China was this amazing thing. This is the mid-90s. I'm 39. And I was going to learn Chinese, and I was going to go into business, because you go to college to make money, and that is not who I am. But it was the quickest way for me to get out of school, so I stuck it out. That was my major. I have a degree in Chinese language and literature and East Asian studies, double major. I still have dreams in Chinese. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what anybody else says. But like Alex said, absolutely, you are some of your parts. Everything you've learned, what that did for me is it blew my poor rural mind. It stretched it like algebra, man. Like the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes when you have a language gap, and to be able to, that like so big sociology experiment of learning someone else's culture, absolutely tied into being a journalist and a writer, photographer, and filmmaker. It's part of everything I've done, and a parent, honestly. Newspapers, the grind, man. $10 an hour. I was a photographer first. Then they decided they didn't need those anymore. So I volunteered to be a writer because I felt bad for the older photographer who was just trying to ride out his last couple years. I knew that I was going to be in this for a while. I volunteered to be a writer. I ended up covering the county board of Marquette, Michigan, learned about taxes and all kinds of messy government stuff. It was awesome. Never stop learning, never stop growing. Do the scary stuff. County board meetings are scary. Discovered this thing called story. Like finding these stories, because you have to grind it out when you're in this position. We were doing like 3 stories a day, everybody, 3 stories a day, every day. And you just boom, 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 boom. You have to work, you have to go hard and go fast. That was 4 years of that, and I realized why all the senior members of the staff just had this dead look in their eyes, and I decided to move on. I found a part-time media job that allowed me to do freelance, and I started finding stories around the Upper Peninsula. And the Upper Peninsula is this beautiful, wild place. Like, our resources are the lack of humanity, not the bulk of humanity, like Lower Michigan. And started finding stories that people weren't telling, or weren't telling in a way that I thought was marketable. That the UP is this like reservoir of wilderness and natural peace in the Midwest that folks can tap into. That's our true resource. We don't have to mine it. We don't have to log it. We can a little bit because those are good jobs. Anyway, travel. Started telling travel stories. I'm going to just keep this moving. Regional magazines, I found out, so regional magazines were awesome. I still love regional magazines. They pay, I'm going to skip this. Regional, I was unabashedly regional. You know, a little bit of work I did with national publications, you know, they'd want a 200-word story on some magical smoothie recipe or some crap. And you'd go back and forth with the editor. At the end of the day, it was just pointless work. I just hated it. Where a regional mag would give me, I mean, my first feature was 10 pages. It was this like kayaking expedition on Lake Superior. Like, it was so much fun. It was great. And it paid, you know, it was like $3,000 at the time. They don't pay that anymore, but it beat the hell out of smoothie recipes, you know? And so a little bit of national work. It's few and far between. They don't care. In my demographic, my genre, the outdoors industry is very Western-based, very mountain-based. They don't care so much about the Midwest, which was hard at first. But now that I've arrived, through grinding it out, I mean, I'm in my 16th year, and I'm now the national media comes to me as the expert on outdoor stuff in the Midwest. I mean, this Midwest wild, I mean, I may as well have written that headline. That's the same story. That's the story of my career. 15 years I've been preaching that. And now they, you know, this is Outdoor Life. This is a mountain bike magazine. This is National Geographic Adventure when they existed. Canoe and Kayak, which actually just killed their print edition. This is American Angler. This is actually right now, this month. So I sort of created the market that I now fill. You know, that's not going to happen everywhere and every place, but this is my path. You can probably find a similar one somewhere. Don't come to the UP, it's mine. Writing and photography, yeah, so I've never directed like Alex. I wouldn't even know how to define directing, but when I was doing these pieces, newspaper editing, shooting newspaper features, magazine features, you know, I learned how to shoot, and you know, you need the wide shot, and then you need the detail shots, and you know, and you need to support the text. And it turns out like this is this beautiful analog version of filmmaking. That's as near as I can tell. No one's ever told me that, but that's what it feels like. Is, you know, the tight shot, the wide shot, to move the story along. And I learned that through. I didn't know it at the time, but I was learning that through shooting magazine features and then writing those magazine features, finding the stories, doing the interviews, knowing how to take those little nuggets from the individual players and weave them together to tell the full story. And I loved it. It's a drug, man. Talk about dopamine. Like, I love connecting with people and hearing their stories and weaving them together, and you know, that becomes part of my story. So there's like personal growth. It is an amazing field. It is really, really fun. That's why a lot of people want to do it, I think. Again, untold stories. We'll come back to this. This is ice climbing. I wrote a feature, you know, I don't know if this was like 2008 maybe? I wrote a magazine feature on ice climbing in the UP. So I became familiar with that story and the characters involved. So when I eventually did the film, I came back to it. Oh, yeah, it wasn't all roses. I tried to do art shows for some reason. Like, I thought this was a good idea. I think part of it was ego, like, you want to like show your stuff and sell your stuff. This was not me. Some people do this and they do it really well, and they love it. I hate it. Fail, major fail. Expensive fail, all that stuff is expensive. I still have a lot of that crap just rotting like in my basement. So what happened was, through doing my magazine work, developing this like adventure, this reputation for adventure storytelling, and getting these pieces in magazines, I caught the attention of the travel industry in the UP, which used to be, you know, it kind of still is, you know, ride the boat, see the cliffs, eat a pasty. It was kind of cheesy. It was kind of this like 1950s, 1960s mentality that my generation, I think a bit of your generation too, kind of the same, they're seeking a little more. Like, they're seeking this experience, this adventure, to be a part of a story. And I got kind of sucked into the travel industry, which was much better pay than editorial work for magazines. That's always the story. I mean, the commercial is much more well-paying than editorial. Editorial is fun and there's freedom, and you do editorial to get commercial work. It's hard to make a living solely on editorial work, but I kind of walk that line. Travel industry. So this is Michigan's Upper Peninsula, UP Travel. You know, this is actually my hand. You know, this is because I knew where these places were. I knew I had the skills to do this stuff, but you know, the outdoor skill and the photography and later video skill. So I started getting tapped to, you know, create the images that redefine the region as this adventure playground. There we go. I don't do weddings. So this is, it was last winter. This is this summer's. This was like a couple winters ago. Just adventure, outdoors. It's who I am. I think it was Marlon. I don't know if Marlon's here. Asked me last night, you know, about advice, and one thing I failed to tell him was, what's the weird corner of the world that you know really well? You know, start there. I knew the outdoors world. It's what I was passionate about. Okay, fly through all of that. It's 2012. The film came out in 2013. So I was just a stills photographer, just a print writer. I tried blogging. You know, I didn't know why I was doing it. There was no paycheck. Bailed on it. And I actually took some time off. You know, social media was just kind of rolling out. Everything I was doing was being devalued. I'm sure, you know, anyone who's been doing it for a while understands that. Even doing it now, you understand it. It's being devalued. Everyone has a camera now, and cameras are getting better. Everything's getting easier. The skill set you had is not valuable. And I was total fixed mindset. I said, to hell with it. I'm gonna farm. I bought an old farm. My wife and I had some kids, and that's what I was gonna do. That's what I grew up doing, was farming. I was going to do the whole organic food, local food thing. I'm going off track a little bit here, but luckily my friends and my family just slapped some sense into me, and they're like, you have a really lucrative career that doesn't require a whole lot of you, and you can make a living. You should probably get your ass back to work doing that. And right about that time, HD video comes into the SLRs, right? The cameras that I'm using anyway to do my job all of a sudden had the ability to make those pictures move. Start playing with it and realized, oh, this is actually what I was supposed to be doing my entire life. This is the storytelling that I've been doing, but now I'm the photo editor. Like, you know, it all kind of comes into this device. And 2012, with the blessing of my wife, racked up I think $20,000 on a credit card, because that's how I've done everything I've done. I've never gotten a business loan. Credit card debt, rack it up. Pay it off, rack it up, pay it off, rack it up, pay it off. And luckily I've been able to pay it off. So bought, you know, a bunch of equipment and didn't know anything. And my friends who were cyclists, mountain bikers in the Marquette area, there's these things called these fat tire bikes. Actually, I'm gonna go forward here. This is from my friend Brendan Leonard, who runs Semi-Rad. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Semi-Rad. Brendan's a genius. And I stole, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like my old man. Pretty much everything in this PowerPoint I've stole. So yeah, I was talking about doing video, but geez, you know, can I do it? It's a lot of money. Geez, I don't know. Is there a market for it? You know, and stuff like this is helpful. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Do it. Send it. Still gonna send it, Larry. So I hit record for the first time, the red button, man. Ooh, the red button, I love it. In like March of 2013, we spent 5 days, 5 separate times. It was really random. It was just some buds, and hit record and started following them around, shooting it the way I would shoot a magazine feature, and conducting interviews the way I would conduct interviews for a magazine feature, just recording them. and ended up making a 20-minute short called Cold Rolled, which if you know anything about the steel industry, cold rolled steel bikes. So the people in Marquette developed this first of its kind winter cycling trail. So they packed down the snow in a certain way that you can ride these like bikes that were just coming out. It was the first of its kind, and it was weird, and it was funny, and the cycling world is very video oriented. It's how they think. They love. There's entire film festivals devoted to just cycling and bike films. Yeah, I didn't know anything about film festivals until Mountain Film, which is a biggie. It's the American BAMF, if you've heard of BAMF. Everybody's heard of BAMF, it seems like. Very few people have heard of Mountain Film and Telluride. It's actually like 35 years old. It was the first. It's a biggie. I had never heard of it either. It's okay. And they contacted me and said, hey, we're going to show your film. I was like, great. And went out to Telluride, and all my heroes are there. Like, all my heroes from the outdoors industry are there, the outdoors filmmaking world, the athletes, everything. And it was amazing. That world kind of opened to me, and I went there with a chip on my shoulder, like, oh, I'm the guy from the Midwest. This is my first film, geez. And you get there, and nobody knows anything about you, right? So just send it. I'm a filmmaker, right? Just like all of you guys. And that's who I am now. And it's a little weird because it's only been 4 years. Yeah, find the story. So I was going to make, it was really amazing to see these bikes ride on snow, and it was like, oh, cool, I was just going to make a little shred video, like a 2-minute little, like the same old Red Bull crap, you know, just, wow, look at these bikes on snow, wow. And then I fell back on my journalism roots, find the story, tell the story. I didn't think anybody would watch a 20-minute movie about riding bikes on snow, and it ended up being a little virally. I released it in 5 parts, one a week for 5 weeks, and yeah, it was super cool. It went out on the web. So we had, you know, drone technology was brand new at that time, at least for, you know, working stiffs, just regular people. This was built in Dan's basement. Dan was a 22-year-old kid living with his parents. He built that thing in his basement out of parts off of eBay. It was dangerous and stupid. We're really lucky we didn't kill somebody or ourselves. And I had an FS700, which is and still, or was and still is, an amazing camera. I'm so glad I chose that for my first camera, and I just parted with it actually, and I kind of regret it. And we had a great winter. It was amazing conditions. So visually, it was pretty stunning. It was a lot of fun. And so what this did, so it kind of blew up Marquette. Like within 7 days of this silly winter biking video hitting the web, we had people showing up from Grand Rapids and Chicago. Like this family from Texas showed up with their bikes, and these bikes are like $5,000 each. You know, like, so these aren't mostly are not regular folk. They're upper middle class. Like, they're not afraid to spend money. They showed up in Marquette in the dead of winter, and they wanted, like, where's this trail? I want to ride my bike. And what that said to my clients in the travel industry was, this kid's a rainmaker. I mean, not a kid. I mean, I was 35, but you know, this guy's a rainmaker. Like, holy shit, he knows what he's doing. Like, and they put all this trust in me, and they put this trust in storytelling, which was huge. Now, a lot of this is nice because I live in a very isolated area. There aren't a lot of cutting-edge ideas floating around, and I definitely took advantage of being, you know, the bright young person with the clear path forward. I think you can do this anywhere, though. You know, listening to Josh and how he conducts his business, it's like, okay, that's the same thing. So it generated tons of media attention. You know, we got on, I believe we got on the Fox station. You know, Marquette was, you know, part of a news segment. We brought in this hokey bike, and we talked about riding in winter. We did these media tours, and it was really good for the clients I already had. No one paid me. Salsa Cycles, the bike company, gave me $1,000 and a bike to make that video. But for me, it was a training exercise. I was like, can I do this? This might be fun. And it blew up. It blew up because it was a good story. And then so it led into actual paying work. All of a sudden, we kind of wagged the dog. The folks in Lansing are saying, well, everybody's always wondered what the heck to do with the UP in winter. Like, what do you do with the UP? How do you make it pull its own weight? How do you make it be not just this like big draw on the state's resources? And so, and winter's especially tough. So everybody loves a good winter story from the UP at the state level. So I got hired to do photo shoots. This ended up being the travel guide cover, which again made me look good to my existing clients, made me look good to the outdoors industry, because I'm able to take their product and now get it in front of a mainstream audience. I mean, it's on the cover of a million circulation print guide all over the Midwest. So all of a sudden these things weren't this weird niche, weren't as weird and nichey as before. So the outdoor industry loved it. Editorial work flowed from it as well. And then industry work. Again, the deeper you go into the industry, the better the pay gets. You know, and this ended up turning into about, I think about $60,000 all said and done in video work for Trek bikes. And I'll show you this one quick 2-minute little shred video I did for Trek bike. In theory. Lights? Yeah, so that was amazing. I mean, Trek's, they're out of the Milwaukee area, so they're a Midwest company, which was nice. It was really fun work, relatively well-paying work. I mean, that was just myself and another shooter, a young guy right out of college that I like to work with. He had his dad. He grew up in the bike industry. Oops, sorry for the whacking the mics, guys. My edit. The music artist, was someone I found at a film festival, actually, and good music budget, which is always nice. It's nice to be able to spread it around with your fellow creatives. So, story. It was story-driven. All of that flowed from falling back on what I knew from magazine and newspaper work, was to find that story. You know, I thought the world wanted a really short, punchy, I thought they wanted that, right? That's what I set out to make that first time. And instead I said, you know what, nobody's paying me to do this. I'm going to do what I want. It's personal work. Do the personal work that you want to become your actual work. And followed my gut on the story, and it led to good things. And it still is. I'm still getting tapped. I'm still the fat bike guy, which is weird. They're called fat bikes. I don't know. Okay. So what's next? Where's the hard stuff, as Josh says? He's absolutely right. What scares you? What scares me is I have zero background in this, right? Like you guys right now have had way more knowledge on this subject. I mean, just this morning, you've had more exposure to knowledge than I've had in really my whole career. I feel like a charlatan. I feel like, I forget what Josh said it was. What's the imposter syndrome? Absolutely, absolutely feel that. So what do? You look that in the face and you say, I'm going to make a real movie. How the hell do you make a real movie? And the only thing I really know is to work hard to grind it out, grind it out, grind it out, grind it out. I knew there was this story, and then I set about grinding it out. Michigan Ice Film, terrible name. I don't know of a better one though, so we stuck with it. It's a 71-minute documentary, kind of I guess you call it a doc, about ice climbing on the shore of Lake Superior in Munising, Michigan. Who cares, right? I didn't care who cared. I just wanted to make this and see if I could do it. And I knew it was going to be a lot of work. There we go. Those are the kind of visuals we're working with. So I knew I had some sex appeal to sell, right? The outdoors industry loves blue ice and big walls and gnarly stuff. What am I supposed to be saying? Learning. Never stop learning, growth mindset. So this project took 3 winters. 2 of those winters were the hardest winters on record, froze solid. Sorry guys, when is my slot up? 12:45. Okay, so I have to stop in 10 minutes for questions. So I'm going to blow through this. 3 years. What I learned was to suffer better, to just grind it out. That means physically in my genre, in my world, it means just endure long days, cold, just grind it out. And come back with the footage. Protect your batteries, protect your fingers, protect your people. It was amazing. We did some really fun stuff. We had 20, so it was a much more complicated thing. We had 20 athletes and support people. That's climbers, not creatives. Over the course of the project, I think I had about 8 crew. It was chaos. You can't plan for this. I mean, we're shooting from the hip. I'm doing this as a newspaper photographer where you don't know what's going to happen. You try and, it's a lot like the opera, honestly. You're trying to guess what's going to happen and stay a step ahead of it. I love that. I love that part of the wave, that surfing of like, you don't know what's going to happen and you're just moving forward, falling forward, and feeling that creative juice just pumping. Everybody wants to know money. I raised $20,000 in sponsorships, direct support from brands. The biggest one was $5,000, so it was a lot of small checks. You know, a 3-year project, that's not a lot of money. It's better than zero, but it's not a lot of money. Crowdsourced $5,000 through Kickstarter. So I learned about that side of things, learned to be a little bit braver when asking for money, and learned first aid. And again, do the things you want to do, right? You remember the doing shit versus talking about doing shit? Do it. If you want to make games, make games. Do it, do it, do it. Grind it out. Start now. It's going to take a decade at least. So this is Conrad Anker. Conrad Anker is a hero. Conrad Anker is one of the most celebrated alpinists, mountain climbers in North American history, in world history. He's a living legend, and he was doing an IMAX project for the National Park Centennial. He was hired as the talent to be in this IMAX film. They were supposed to shoot all the ice climbing in Montana. Montana didn't have any ice. They saw my trailer, my Kickstarter fundraising trailer, and said, where the hell is this godforsaken ice Hoth, you know, Star Wars? And they brought the entire production to Munising, Michigan, population 2,500. They're spending about $30,000 a day in Munising. They hired my entire crew, which was great because I didn't pay my crew. They were there because they wanted to be there. I did what I could. I fed them. I put them up in hotels. I fixed their equipment, you know, what little I could do. So this IMAX show rolls into town and like hires all of them. It would have hired me. I had to get back to real life. But it was just amazing to see that, again, wagging the dog. Like, I did this personal project because I wanted to do it. I got a little bit of funding. I had a loose plan. It led into all of these bigger things. And I believe that is true of anything. Do the work you want to do. Don't do the work that comes through the door. I mean, you have to do both, right? But make sure you cut out time for the work you want to do. Another thing I learned was streaming, Vimeo on demand. It was a disappointment for sure. I mean, this is better than zero, which is what it would have if I just dumped it on the web. This was cool, 27 countries. It's nice to have some stats. It's still growing. You know, in the winter months, it's like $500 a month it brings in. I've sort of let it go. I sort of moved on. One thing is filmmaking is a team sport. I learned that, you know, photography is not. I was essentially a lone wolf my entire career up until filmmaking. And then you put together a crew and you end up running the crew. What I didn't plan on was the crew for after the work is done, to get it out there. You need those people too. We didn't have those people in our crew. I thought that was going to be me. The reality is real life sets in, life moves on, things move forward. I probably would have done much better financially if I had a better plan or partners in place that would just do that. Film festivals, back to the film festival circuit. I also realized that nobody wants a 71-minute ice climbing film from Michigan. They just don't want it. It's too long. They said nice things about it, but they said it's too long, and it's such a niche thing. It went in its entirety. It went to a handful of film festivals, but what I learned was to make a festival cut. I made a 10-minute cut. I kind of took the core story. It's a series of vignettes, if you haven't seen it. It's a series of vignettes. I pulled one of those out and then used all of the great B-roll that we were able to shoot over 3 years to kind of flesh it out and make a sexy 10-minute edit about Michigan and about this one climber. And that ended up going, it's in the 20s. I kind of lost track. I kind of moved on. But, you know, Macedonia, and some of these are big, some of these aren't. Kendall is a big deal. Mountain Film, again, is a big deal. To me, the Freep thing was a big deal because we filled 2 like big theaters, and it was really cool for me to see like, oh, Michiganders really dig this. Like, they really dig seeing a well-done product from their backyard. I think one of these is Macedonia. You know, it's cool. It doesn't make you any money. It makes you legit for your next project, but. So the theme of that is work, right? So you find the story, you do the work. Find the story, do the work. And then passion. All this leads up to this. So when you do a project, and everybody wants to know, well, what are you doing next? You're like, how the hell should I know? I need a nap, you know? What are you doing next? What are you doing next? This is what I'm doing next, and this is a full nonprofit volunteer thing that I started, this film festival, because going around to these film festivals, again, in my world, in the outdoors world, there's a ton of film festivals in the Midwest. None of them are focused on the landscape, on the beautiful outdoor stories, you know, the industry stories, people having fun in the outdoors, or the environmental and social justice stories that come along with our landscape. And we live in a globally significant landscape. The freshwater resources in this region are right under our noses, and you know, we don't always recognize that. There's a lot of issues right now in my neck of the woods. Sorry for hitting the mics. Mining, there's a lot of nasty mining, potential mining going on in the Upper Peninsula that threatens our freshwater resources. There's a pipeline in the Straits of Mackinac that would really mess things up if it burst. There's the Nestle plant in this area. There are a lot of things that demand our attention. And what I've found is in our region, good stewardship is good business. And I want, with Fresh Coast Film Festival, to create a community of give-a-shitters, I guess is the best I can come up with. Like, how many of you give a shit, right? Like, you give a shit about something, I hope, right? If not this, at least your own life and your own career. But, so what I've done, you know, I feel my life, you know, kind of climbing up into this thing that like, I've achieved some professional success. I've got a voice, I've got a platform. What the hell are you gonna do with it? And for me, it goes back to land. You know, I grew up on the land, I came from the land. We all did, really, if you go back far enough. Without it, man, there is nothing. And I want to see a community of creative, smart people in the Great Lakes region giving a shit. Doing the films that maybe don't make money, but bring awareness to issues that we all need to grapple with. I see this in the Mountain West. I see this in the film festivals that I go to where I'm the only Midwesterner. And they don't know. They know where Traverse City is because it's, you know, one of the most beautiful places in the world. And this set just kind of goes from the most beautiful place in the world to the most beautiful place in the world. So they're like, oh yeah, I know Petoskey, I know Traverse City. I'm like, well, there's a lot more, and all of it's important. It's just a film festival, but I think it can be more. So what's next? This is next for me. You're next. You know, what's next? My project is you, I hope. This is a venue for stories that count. On its surface, it's environmental, but we're dealing a lot with some urban issues, social justice. This year we're branching out. It is a place for excellent documentary filmmaking. We cast a big net. It's a big tent. Really, if you're an outsider, you fit in here. Is with documentaries anyway. Yeah, so much for story. Kind of got off track here. You are next. I want to see your work. I want to see what you guys do. I want it to be important. There's a place for it. Talk to me, email me. It's in Marquette, Marquette is sort of, you know, this like cool outdoor city on Lake Superior. It's this blue dot and a red sea, if you want to paint it that way. There's a lot of cool, fun stuff going on up there. I was telling Josh, Marquette is the nicest neighborhood in Portland. That's kind of one way to say it. Like but it's in the Upper Peninsula. So it's a great spot. It's in the fall, great time of year to visit. We put you up. You get to meet other people. So last year we had 400 attendees. Our first year, we had 400 attendees from all over the Midwest. In Minnesota, we had people come from California. It was great. We had 25 filmmakers, and these are, you know, I joke, there's no red carpet on the Fresh Coast. Like, we're not Traverse City Film Festival. I have a lot of respect for Michael Moore and Traverse City Film Festival. It's an awesome event. There's no red carpet on the Fresh Coast. We hold it in breweries. We hold it in these like non-traditional spaces. The idea, and we keep it as cheap as possible. The idea is to get people through the doors, to create this kind of mass of humanity drinking from the same straw at the same time, and then send them back to their corners of the world to do good work. There's a student program we're starting this year, and we do have a small, tiny, teeny scholarship program, a couple $100 to help you with a project. We're seeking corporate partnerships with, you know, like Sony, GoPro, so we can get equipment to get in people's hands. Again, our focus is on the outdoors, the environment, but that's sort of our branding. We are an all-encompassing documentary film festival. There's room for everybody. These are photos from last year's film festival. It was cool. Again, from Brendan at Semirad, you know, if you try, it's objects in motion, right? Objects in motion stay in motion, objects at rest die. So what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? For me, I mean, I don't know why only that one shows up. There's supposed to be pictures of my kids there. You know, my family's next. I'm thinking about that next step. You know, I'm 40. It's this midlife. This is my midlife crisis. There's no affair and a Ferrari. I'm going to start a film festival. It may end up getting me divorced in the same way, but and you know, what's next? Look at this. Look at this little shit. That's my son throwing me a 16 by 9. Just he's rolling live. And find the story, work hard, have passion. It worked for me, it can work for you. Never stop growing, never stop moving forward. Grind it out. It is work. It's going to take a decade. Start now. And we'll go out on a laugh. Go ahead. Just hit play. There's something in here. There's a play button. No, that didn't work. That didn't work at all. The last one. Are we on Wi-Fi? Yeah. The hell? Make it full screen, huh? Where was it? Did you see it? Oh, upper left corner here, maybe? Oh. Go full screen. Or, you know, make it go into present mode and then.
You click right here?
All the technologies. All right, well, it's a picture of my daughter hitting a sweet ski jump. She's 5.
Could just be back.
So I guess another word, one word too. Okay, forget that. It was supposed to be funny. It's not. Huge area for growth if you are female or if you are not white in the outdoors industry. The outdoors industry is a legit industry. There is a lot of money that flows through the outdoor industry. It's selling just like selling anything. They don't want my story anymore, you know. They want non-traditional stories. It's an industry that's been white dudes going, bro, for a long time. They want the other stories, so lots of room for growth there if you are so inclined.
Are there a couple of questions for Aaron? Yeah, a couple of questions. Yes, sir.
You could do a documentary on any other place besides Upper Peninsula. Where would you go?
Jeez. There's so many good stories. I mean, I like cold stories. I guess Canada. I love Canada. I love Canadian. Yeah. I mean, shit. I got the Canadian tuxedo on. Come on. I'm almost a national. So, yeah.
Mine's more of a statement. So, anybody interested in his film festival, we have little pamphlets, I believe.
Thank
on
you.
our MCA table. Everyone knows what the table is. It's literally just down the hall from there, and we have buttons.
And stickers. Yeah, all kinds of
I know high school kids and definitely college
stick, right?
free stuff.
I was in college once. Look at all those stickers. I even had a sticker for the ice film. Questions? Yep.
Just out of sheer curiosity, what's your favorite outdoor sport?
I am an omnivore, man. I'm a fun hog. I like all of it. And I do all of it at like a solid 6 level. Yeah, mediocrity, and I'm an expert at mediocrity.
So what kind of equipment did you use, like cameras and stuff, and how did you protect it from the cold?
Okay, use a ton of different equipment. I guess to kind of shorten it up, it doesn't matter what's in your hands, it's what's in your head. It's going to change just like everything. So focus on vision, knowing the shot. Batteries, your body is warm. Eat food and move, you stay warm. Kept batteries on my body, inner pockets, lots of layers. And we still had problems. The drone batteries were the worst because they're these huge bricks that we couldn't protect. We ended up getting a cooler and hot packs, like for ice fishing, like those chemical hand warmers. So circling it back, we had an FS700, a lot of Panasonic GH4, Sony mirrorless stuff, GoPros, a little bit of Canon DSLR, a little bit of everything. Yep.
Out of 100%, give me the percentages for creative versus business for you personally.
For me, so So creativity was natural, it was easy for me, right? The business was hard. So for me, what I work at, and I think it's true of most creatives, or fail at, which is true of most unemployed creatives, yeah, the business stuff, to be able to sell, to know what the value of what you're doing is. What do they need? You know, is what Josh said. You know, what are they afraid of? What can't they do? What can you? What, you know, what's? That's it. That's it, and that's everywhere. It's the same story. So along those lines, story, right, at the core of this, whether you're going into game production or no matter what you are doing, the ability to find that story and present that story. I don't feel that I did that stellar of a job with the storytelling today, but it's a skill that translates across all fields. You know, work on that, learn that, and I think you can only do that with time.
Last question is right there, young lady. Yes.
Okay. What are your best tips for beginner photographers?
Just grind it out. Grind it out. Grind it out. I mean, if you want to learn, learn. Secondly, though, do it. I mean, do it, right? Like, I don't want to dissuade any of you from your majors. This seems like an amazing program. I wish I would have had something like this and the support network you have here. Just the two speakers I heard ahead of me were just amazing. But study something. Don't study what you want to do necessarily. Study things that make you a more well-rounded person. That you can learn the technical stuff on the job. You can learn that just by doing it, I feel. Study a language, that's what I did. You know, sociology, psychology, history, earth science, something that gives you another knowledge base, you know. Minor in something totally weird and different. Like, fill yourself up because it will come back to play. Absolutely.